Welcome everybody. As I said, I'm Viv Trask-Hall and I'm Head of Product and Innovation at Thrive. I'm also Thrive's Principal Trainer, and I've been using Thrive or been engaged with Thrive since, let me think, 2011, a long time. Back then I was working in schools as head teacher and executive head teacher, so I've used Thrive a lot with children. I continue to do that because I'm still a foster carer and also a director of a multi-academy trust up here in South Yorkshire. So something that I talk about, but also something that I practice with. So I'm joined by Danny today. Over to you, Danny, to say hi.
Hi everyone, I'm Danny Lawson and I work in Viv's team in Thrive. So I'm training, product and innovation lead. So a lot of my work is around training each of the phases, so training at early years, childhood and adolescent phase, and contributing to lots of writing of the training courses, the materials that we use, and also developing Thrive Online.
Thanks, Danny. So what we're going to do is tell you just very briefly a little bit about Thrive in case it's something that you haven't really discovered yet on your journey through early years. And then we'll get into a little bit about the mindfulness. So what Thrive does is we help people to improve the mental health and well-being of children and young people. We work from birth all the way through to 25, and we support the adults to really understand what's happening with behaviour, understanding that behaviour itself is not the problem. Behaviour is what tells us that there is a problem. So it's about a communication of unmet needs. So we help people to understand what the behaviour is telling us and then what to be able to do about it. We've got this incredible tool called Thrive Online, which helps to plan really great activities to build into provision in order to prevent mental health difficulties, prevent behavioural challenges as the child grows all the way through to becoming an adult, as well as to look back and repair some of the gaps that they might have in learning in age appropriate and respectful ways. So that's what we do. And mindfulness sits beautifully as a central core resource in all of the things that we offer within Thrive. And that's because if we're thinking about behaviour, we need to understand that what's driving the behaviour is fuel, chemical fuel. And that chemical fuel, these are the chemicals, the hormones, the neurotransmitters that are released and race around our body in order to help us stay safe. And what that means is sometimes our body responds and brain responds to something, and to stay safe, we need to get out of the way quickly. So we get the right types of chemicals to help us get up and move. Sometimes we need to fight our way out of something. So we need the right types of chemicals to be able to go to the right muscle groups and to be able to fight our way out of it. And sometimes we need to go into a position where we become unnoticed. We need to freeze. And again, we have sets of chemicals to do that. These are, of course, what we call the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight, and freeze responses. When we think about our children in the early years, what they're learning to do is they're learning to understand their body and brain responses so that they can predict from the feelings that they're getting whether or not they need to do something in order to stay steady and calm. What the body doesn't want to do is to be out of control. But when children are very little, they haven't yet learned the control over some of these types of emotions. So we see it leak out. We might see stamping feet, or getting red in the face, getting really cross, having people to shout, no, I'm not doing that, or becoming stubborn. You might see children flail on the floor. You might see them lash out or bite or hit. What's happening here is some of this fuel is being built up in the body, and what the body is doing is using up the fuel because the child hasn't yet been able to find that little bit of space to think about their behaviour in order to use up the fuel more effectively in a more socially acceptable way. So it starts to be used up by the body. So it moves quickly, hits out, bites, fights, kicks off. Okay. So where mindfulness, oh, it'd be great if I could say it, wouldn't it? Where mindfulness kicks in is where we become even more present of ourselves in the moment, so that we can check into how our body is, so that we begin to notice when these changes happen. So for example, you will know moments when you're just about to start an interview, because you might get that fluttery feeling in your tummy. You might get a flappy feeling in your chest. These things you've learned mean that you're feeling nervous or anxious. And so you know what to do about it. You take a few deep breaths. We're learning about our bodies between the ages of birth all the way through, but we've got a real focus between birth and 5, because this is where we're learning to really understand what our bodies are telling us. So the more often we can do this in the early years, we're helping to build our stress regulation system. So when we're stressed, we know how to regulate ourselves, and mindfulness sits there because it gets us to stop, tune into what's happening, and then we're able to really make some decisions about our behavior, instead of our behavior making the decisions for us, which is out of sync with what we would expect for a child. So the more we can do this, we're more effective learning how to behave. And to be able to learn how to do this, we're building up our skills in something called interoception. Interoception is where we've just lost Danny off the call. I don't know where she's disappeared to. I hope she's coming back shortly. Interoception is where we lost you for a minute there, Danny. I hope you can hear us. Can you hear us all right?
I can now. It all froze there. We disappeared into virtual space somewhere.
Don't worry. I managed to regulate myself and off we went. So interoception is where we're building up that knowledge of understanding how we respond to things. So it's one of our senses. We often talk about 5 senses, but there are many more than 5 senses. Interoception is one of them, which we could speak about for this half an hour without anything else. Okay. In order to learn how to do this to support children in the earlier setting, we need to practice it for ourselves first. And so what Danny's going to do is she's going to lead you through an activity that we do in Thrive called a body scan, and so that we can learn what's happening in different parts of our bodies. And the more we practice that for ourselves as adults, and the more we help children as young as 2 and 3 years old to do it, then the more effective that they are getting at being able to manage their behavior. Okay, Danny, I'm going to hand over to you to help us learn a little bit more about mindfulness.
Thank you, Viv. I hope that I stay connected with you. If not, I'm sure Viv will be able to step in. She knows where I'm going with this. So as Viv's explained, it's really important for us to be able to recognise sensations in our own body, link them sensations to a feeling, and be able to respond in the moment. And what we know for young children is they pick up on our emotional sense, what's happening for us. So even if we think that we're going in with a smile, but actually we're feeling worried about something that's coming up, our amygdala, children's amygdala will pick up on the uncertainty, the emotional tone. So it's really important for us to be able to check in. And this body scan is a short body scan, but we're encouraging you as practitioners, not just Thrive practitioners, but practitioners working with children on a daily basis, to try and incorporate some time every day for you to just check in, notice different sensations, be curious about what them sensations are, what sensations, what feelings are linked to them sensations, and start to build up your self-awareness, so that in the moment, when we're having them tricky days where it seems like there's nothing more that can go wrong, but then something does, and it feels like the world is against you, that we can check in, notice them sensations, and find a strategy to be able to regulate and stay steady in the moment, so that we're steady when we're connecting in with children and supporting children that are still developing their bank of strategies to use. So what I'm going to do is lead you through a body scan. And ideally, you need to be in a space where you feel safe and comfortable and is quiet. You don't need to focus on the screen, really just focus on my voice. So ideally, if you can sit in a comfortable position and sort of pop your feet firmly to the floor. If you'd prefer to stand, that's fine too. Stand in a position where you feel comfortable. And if you're comfortable to do so, close your eyes. If you're not comfortable to close your eyes, find a focal point in the space that you're in and try to just focus on that point throughout the body scan. And we're going to work from toes all the way up to the tops of our heads, and then just do some reflection in the chat after, just to notice some sensations that appeared that you weren't familiar with. I'm not asking you to disclose any sort of like reasoning behind that, just noticing some sensations and practicing naming some of them sensations as well. So if you can get yourselves into a comfortable position, and like I say, if that's seated or stood up, however that is for you, and just find that focal point or close your eyes, and we're just going to take some regulation breaths. So what I want you to do is try and make your in-breath longer, your out-breath, sorry, longer than your in-breath. So take a deep breath in and then out and in and out. Again, in and out. I want you to bring your attention and focus right to the tips of your toes. So whether you're wearing slippers or shoes or barefoot, just notice your tips of your toes and start to wiggle your toes. Notice any sensations in your feet. Are they tingly? Are they cold? And then bring your focus up and just sort of raise your foot onto your tips of your toes and then back down. Notice any changing sensations as you're doing that. Any muscles that are moving. Again. Bring your focus up into your ankles, and if you can, just start to roll your ankle around. Noticed any creaks or cracks that happen? Just twisted my ankle and I made a bit of a creak. Is that happening for you? The other ankle? Start now to bring your focus up into your calves. So try and just tense your calf muscles. You might want to raise your feet a little bit and back down. Notice what it's like when your muscles are tense, and then relax. Tense. Relax. Bring that focus up to your bigger muscles, your thighs, your quads. Moving up from your thighs to your hips. If you can, if you stood up, just give your hips a little roll around. If you sat down, just move to the side. Notice any aches, pains, or any particular sensations in that area of your body. Moving up into your abdomen. Any sensations that you've got in your stomach, any fluttering or tingling or fizzing? Does it feel hollow or full? And then moving up into your chest, and just pop your hand across your chest. Again, notice any sensations. Take a breath in and out. Can you feel that? Your heart beating? Any sensations in your chest area? Is it tight? Is it shaky? Is it heavy? And any of these sensations are all valid. Don't worry, they're your sensations. Moving up now into your neck. Just give your neck a roll around slowly. Notice any sensations, any feelings in your neck, any sort of tension. So rolling around, change direction, moving your head forwards and backwards, and then coming down into your shoulders. Are you holding any tension in your shoulders? Do they feel heavy, tight? Just give your shoulders a bit of a roll backwards. And then forwards. Shift your focus down into the tips of your fingers. What's happening there? Hot hands, cold hands, that clammy sensation. Give your fingers a little wiggle. Rotate your hands round in your wrists. Holding your hands up and then moving them back down. Bringing that focus back up into your forearms and up into your biceps and your triceps. Moving back to your shoulders. Any different sensations there than what were present before? Bringing your focus up into your head, up to your forehead, and just give your forehead, try and raise your eyebrows, and back down, back up. Moving down into your mouth and try and just make your mouth wide and close. Notice any sensations in your mouth or jaw. Is there any tightness? And just focus onto your scalp. And just take a deep breath in and out. Try to empty your mind. Notice if you've got any thoughts running through your mind and try to empty them away. Take another deep breath in and out. Bring your attention now back down in to your body. Try and sit up straight if you sat up. If you sat in a chair, if you stood up, just try and straighten your body as if somebody's pulling a string at the top of your head and pulling all of your body straight. And again, just pop your hand across your chest onto your heartbeat and just focus on that regular beating of your heart. Take a deep breath in and out. One last breath in and out. And when you feel ready to do so, if you've had your eyes closed, open your eyes and bring your focus back into the space. If you've been concentrating on a point in the room, bring your focus back to the space. Just for a minute, reflect on the experience that you had, some of the sensations that you might have noticed in different parts of your body. And when you feel free, ready to do so, if you could just pop some of them sensation words into the chat, it'd be great to have some feedback of your experience of the body scan. Did you notice anything that was new for you, or did you notice something that is a common sensation that you get? Starting to build up this reflection of what's happening for you in your body will really help your practice. Thanks, Faye. A floating sensation. a hollow sensation in, you know, whereabouts in the body is that? Is it in a particular space, or is it in a different space that you didn't expect? Yeah, just picking up, Viv, on some of the things that are in the chat. So Rachel, I had a bit of a crackling sensation moving my neck as well. And I know for me that I do hold quite a lot of tension in my neck. So I have to try and be really mindful of practicing the rotating of my neck and sort of like rolling the shoulders back, just to try and sort of steady myself and not hold that tension.
Mandy's saying there about constantly trying to switch off intrusive thoughts. That happens so much, isn't it? Doesn't it? But it's about when that happens, just letting it happen. Don't get cross with it, or don't be getting frustrated that that's happening. Just let it go. Breathe in again, breathe out again, and then focus back into being still and find out where it is in the body. Because the more practice that you've got of doing that, the more that the thoughts will fly in and then fly out again. I mean, it's not about not allowing the thoughts in, it's just allowing them to go through. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's the acknowledgement of, you know, that something's going off in your mind, trying to process that. And sometimes what we do when we're trying to process something is we hold that tension in the body. So practicing this, and you know, that body scan were literally about 7 minutes from tips of your toes right up to your top of your head. But actually, if you can try to, and I get it, you know, we're busy, you know, like, but if we can try and incorporate this into some of our daily practice, actually we're more mindful then of the times when we might be holding some tension, or we might be grappling with a particular sensation, or we recognize a different sensation that we've not noticed before, and it can start to then be curious about what is that, and what does that mean for me, and what do I need, what sort of strategy do I need to manage that. And it might be that you need to have a conversation, you know, use some relational regulation where you speak to somebody and say, do you know what I've noticed at this particular point? I get this sort of like burning sensation, or whatever the sensation is. I'm not really sure what it is. And sometimes just sharing that with your colleagues enables you to begin to be curious yourself, more curious yourself. So lots of people feeling quite calm and a bit emotional. And I think sometimes when we are practicing mindfulness, we're seated in the right hemisphere of the brain, which is our social and emotional part of our brain. So actually we can tune into some different emotions and feel that. So yeah, this is why we talk about doing it in a safe space where you can allow that reflection, and then bringing your thoughts and concentration back into the space after you've engaged in it.
Just got a resource here, Danny, that might be helpful. It's just out of reach. Bear with me.
Thanks, Viv.
When trying to do this type of work with children as well in the setting, it's about giving them something to focus on. What we understand about focusing on breath, focusing on the sensations that's happening in the body, means that we can actually help children be still in their space. Now, this is a particular part of development that happens between 6 and 18 months, and then it continues. So if children haven't had enough experience, or if we don't give them enough experiences of this all the way through to about 4 years old, being still in their bodies, it's very difficult for them to then pick that up, because we have to kind of teach it to repair the bits that they've not had. This is why sometimes when children get into more formal schooling, they find difficulty with sitting still and can have behaviours described as ADHD. And I'm not belittling that at all. I'm just saying sometimes those behaviours, attention deficit, means I've got a deficit of attention. I'm not able to focus. Hyperactivity disorder, I'm unable to stay still. So the more frequently we can teach this in the early years, the more equipped our young people are at trying to be able to be still in the moment. So these types of body scans are really helpful. Danny's the one that she's just done with us as adults. That's 7 minutes. It'd be tricky, wouldn't it, to get children at 3 years old to sit still for 7 minutes. So we want to be able to hold that in mind and say, even if what you're doing is only just for a moment or two, getting them to stop and breathe. So you can use instruments such as a cymbal or a triangle, anything with that resonating sound. And children need to have their eyes closed. And at the point that they don't hear the sound anymore, then they can put their hands on their heads or wave their hands or do whatever symbol or way of being able to demonstrate. What they're able to do then is to stay present for the length of the time that that musical note continues. So the Tibetan prayer bowls that you circle and it brings that humming sound, and then you wait for that to finish. And if you haven't got those in settings, you can get those from YouTube and various other places too. Another way of being able to focus on the breath is to use one of these incredible things that I managed to get from the seaside one time, which are the balls that expand and then contract, because you literally, all of you together can breathe in, hold it, and then breathe out again. I hope that stayed in focus for you. Breathe in and then breathe out again. So what you're able to do then is structure the fact that you want your out breath to be longer than your in breath. What that does is it helps to calm and soothe the setting, because it puts the equivalent of the foot brake onto our system. So it helps to calm children down and bring them back into a regulated state. Okay, we are very close to the end of our session. So I hope it's been useful to go through a body scan yourselves and to think about how to apply this with children and young people. If you've got any questions at all, please pop it into the chat and we'll take those away. I'll be able to respond to them as best we can. Kesha, I don't know if there's anything that you want to add before we say cheerio.
No, that was excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much, Viv and Danny. I hope that everybody relaxed and managed to find the inner zen and reconnect with yourselves. And also, I would like to remind everyone that on Wednesday we have 2 origami webinars. So I'm going to post the registration links here in the chat. And yeah, thank you very much for joining us. And we will send you your certificate in the next few days. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.